Hello everyone, welcome back to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy and this is Scruffy Tales. And we will be focusing on Kursk and also take a quick look at Pokrovsk, but like I said, Kursk because in Kursk, Ukraine has outflanked Russia. So first off, let's take a look what's been happening. As we all know, Russia's launched a counterattack trying to push back the Ukrainians in Kursk. And things have been steadily improving for Russia in Kursk. That has to be said. I mean, this is the map that Ukraine released on the 20th or 21st of August. Um, and if you compare it with today's map, 13th of December, Friday the 13th, as you can see down here primarily, take a look, Ukraine has been pushed back. You can see how the map has changed up here as well. Ukraine has been pushed back as well. And then you have the yellow areas. These are claimed Russian advances. But quite clearly, we have changes up here, down here, and now Russia launched the attack out of Koronevo towards Snagost and has pushed Ukraine back from Koronevo and pushed Ukraine back from the same river. Russia has claimed that they are now in control of this area as well. A bit unclear if that is the case. It may very well be that Russia has pushed into these areas and Ukraine is still trying to hold on, so fighting is ongoing. But it seems to be confirmed that Russia has moved to Snagost and has secured the banks of the river. So that's what's been going on. Russia has had some successes up here, down here, and are now trying to push, or has pushed to Snagost, trying to secure the town and the surrounding area. So what happened? Well, what happened is, I don't know if you can see it here, the ISW map, it's a bit unclear. But here you have a highway between Koronevo and Snagost, and what Russia did was launch an armored push, a thunder run essentially, blitzkrieg, straight down from Koronevo to Snagost, uh, pushed the Ukrainians back from this area. And what happened was, as you can see here, uh, they were in a good position to cut off the Ukrainians that had moved out to the river. And naturally, the Ukrainians did not want to get cut off. They did not want to get encircled because that is how you end up very dead on the modern battlefield with armor and enemy infantry fighting vehicles driving around shooting at you. So what did the Ukrainians do? Uh, they fell back, abandoned these positions, and as you can see here, all of a sudden, Russia had secured a lot of territory. And then the question is, what happened next? Did Russia claim all of this territory as they say, or is Ukraine still in this area fighting? Uh, a bit unclear, but it seems as if this is contested and that Ukraine has not given up on this territory yet. But what we do know is that Russia launched this push down the highway to Snagost and forced Ukraine to fall back. And as you can see here, Russia has secured some territory as a consequence. And like I said in a previous video, this is nothing strange. This is what you do on a modern battlefield. You push with armor and try and threaten the enemy with an encirclement and forcing the enemy to give up territory without a fight to tighten their own lines and avoid being encircled. So classic move, blitzkrieg, armored warfare, maneuver warfare, assault by Russia had the intended effect of threatening to surround and encircle the enemy, and the Ukrainians did what you expect them to do. They fell back to avoid being surrounded, and then Russia managed to secure a lot of territory. So this is what you do with on the modern battlefield when you don't have, a sort of beacon line where you have an insane amount of mines in the way preventing the armored push. So a good move by the Russians, and the Ukrainians did what you expect. You fall back, and Russia claimed territory, like I said. But that's not the end of it. So, like we just pointed out, Russia pushed into Snagost, secured territory. They opened the vital land connection between Koronevo and Glushkovo. Remember, Ukraine had pushed out the river, cut off this entire area from support. Russia has been trying to put up pontoon bridges since Ukraine has blown all the bridges crossing the river. And this territory here was essentially ripe for conquest. Russia has then moved in to open up the land bridge between Glushkovo and Koronevo once more. And what happened now this morning? Take a look. Ukrainian incursions, and this one is only 10 kilometers from Glushkovo. So geolocated, this is from ISW, by the way. Geolocated footage published on the 12th of September indicates that Ukrainian infantry have advanced across the border and into southwestern Tetkino. That's this border town here. As you can see, the yellow, they are already in this area west of the river here. This is Ukrainian in Ukrainian control. Now they're pushing in here. And then over here, also September 12th, shows Ukrainian armored vehicles and infantry bypassing Russian Dragon Teeth anti-tank obstacles on the border unopposed, indicating that Ukrainian forces have advanced in the area and that Russian forces were not prepared to leverage the obstacles to repel cross-border Ukrainian assaults. Right? So, Russia has pushed in here, and now Ukraine is pushing in here. And it could be that Russia realized that this was about to happen. I mean, Ukraine was at the river. The Russian forces here were hard pressed because they had no secure logistical supply chains crossing the river. And Russia noticed that Ukraine was building up forces here to push in from the west and finish off the Russian defenders in Glushkovo County. So that may be why Russia launched this big assault this way, because they realized that they need to open a secure land route between Koronevo and Glushkovo to help the forces holding this area, since this here was happening. Because a push like this just doesn't happen out of the blue. You need to prepare to push in to these locations. Or since this is happening, Ukraine may have done some small incursions to try and lure Russian forces away from the main fighting over here to secure these areas, making it easy for Ukraine over here to defend and potentially push back. Could go either way. But yeah, make up your own mind. So, moving on. But here you have the incursion close to Glushkovo. Here you have where the Russians have pushed in. This is where you have the Russian counter move. And as it says, Ukraine is roughly 10 kilometers away from Glushkovo. And as you can see here, there's a road leading straight from the border all the way to Glushkovo. So, I mean, if Ukraine has pushed in here unopposed, as the ISW claimed, that could be a real problem for Russia if Ukraine can follow this road all the way to Glushkovo, just like Russia did when they pushed for Snagost, right? You can push this distance really fast if you take the enemy by surprise, and all of a sudden you could have Ukrainians at Glushkovo out of nowhere later today or maybe tomorrow. So this is something that the Russians have to address, which could make it easier for Ukraine over here if Russia allocates forces to this area. And here we have Tetkino. As you can see here, Ukraine has for some time pushed into this area west of the river. And there has been reports of Tetkino been bombed by Ukrainian aircraft. We have had reports of Ukrainian reconnaissance units moving in this area. And now we have the reports of Ukraine assaulting into Tetkino with infantry. ISW has this small patch here. Andrew Perpetua is a bit more bolder in his claims and saying Ukraine is pushed into these suburbs of Tetkino. These are housing areas, not really apartment buildings, but individual houses, homes, families, what have you. And this is a farm and big farmland. So that this here would be Ukrainian territory, not sure, because this is just wide open space. But it may be this, maybe we have Russian trenches in the area here, and that is why Ukraine is now in control of the fields. That could be it. They may have pushed into trench lines out in the fields here. So this is a border town, Tetkino, that if Ukraine controls it, then they can begin to utilize the highways leading in here from Ukraine straight into Russia, and then they can push on towards Glushkovo. And yeah, like I said, here you can see the big fields. Here's that farm I was talking about. And as you can see, it's not that built up. You have some country roads, and you have some smaller buildings, houses following each road and street. And this is where Ukraine has pushed in and potentially even controlling some trenches in the fields here. What is interesting, though, is this is from the Deep State map, and they have made this claim for quite some time, that this area is in the gray zone, indicating that Ukraine is operating up here and, being annoying to the Russians in Tetkino. And what is this area? It's this factory up here. And here you have a bridge. The Russians supposedly blew up all the bridges leading to the west side of the river. But for some reason, Deep State indicates that this factory here, this large factory area, is contested with Ukrainians moving around causing havoc in the area. True or not, who knows? But all in all, I think we can agree that Ukraine is applying pressure on Tetkino at the moment, pushing in with infantry across the border into this area here, as well as having troops right on the banks of the river, potentially crossing over in this area around the factory, causing mayhem to the Russian defenders. And if we jump back to the other Ukrainian incursion, remember this is where they pushed in with armor across, bypassed dragon teeth obstacles without issue. That would be here, this area. And here you have that this road here. That's this line here in the terrain. So they pushed in this way, secured a railroad as well, secured this road here. And it could be that they pushed in this way because you have Russians in the villages here and up here, so they are now moving in to isolate these two small villages. And like I said, from here they are now 10 kilometers away from Glushkovo. And if this is a real push and not just a diversion, we will probably see Ukraine moving over to secure these two villages so that they are in control of the highway here, country road that leads straight to Glushkovo, and then they will begin to push up to Veseloe and Ubukovka to secure these two towns, villages, and well and truly set the stage for a full-on push towards Glushkovo. So there you have it. Russia is actually being outflanked within Kursk Oblast in the Glushkovo Rayon, the Glushkovo county of Kursk state, essentially. Russia made this bold push from Koronevo to Snagost. Appears to have been very successful. They have opened up a land corridor from Koronevo to Glushkovo once again. Very crucial because, as you can see, Ukraine keeps hitting these bridges and these pontoon bridges, denying Russia any chance of moving logistics across the river effectively. So Russia needs this land corridor to be able to move troops, supplies, and what have you back and forth if they want to hold on to this entire area. And now Ukraine is pushing in. You can see the main highway leading up to Glushkovo here. This could be a very interesting development if Ukraine keeps pushing. And since it's only 10 kilometers, I mean, take a look at this distance and the distance between Snagost and Koronevo. As you can, Russians at this point realize that this could be trouble if Ukraine pushes in with vehicles. So they will probably allocate troops over here in very short order, which should make it easier for Ukraine to operate over here. At the same time, Ukraine appears to be applying pressure on Tetkino, which may force Russia to allocate even more forces away from the main fighting over here, making it, again, easier for Ukraine to operate in this area. So the question is, did Russia do this because they realized that this was happening? And that they realized, shit, we need a land route now to Glushkovo because Ukraine is about to make a push straight for the city or the town of Glushkovo? Or is Ukraine doing this because Russia made this move and now Ukraine is pushing in to threaten Glushkovo, forcing Russia to move troops away from the main fighting to hold this area here to defend Glushkovo? Leave a comment down below what you think. Who did what and why? Did Russia attack Snagost because they realized Ukraine was about to attack into Glushkovo? Or has Ukraine pushed into Glushkovo because Russia attacked Snagost? Let me know in the comments. And now let's head on over to Pokrovsk to briefly take a look what's going on down there. Russian advances. Unsurprising, they are making a big push down here towards Kurakove. As you can see, this is not really terrain Ukraine can hold. Russia has been moving in north to the south. The Ukrainians are jammed in between the Russians and all of these bodies of water. And Ukraine has probably said, we can't hold here. We need to fall back to more defendable positions. So being outflanked and jammed in between all these creeks and rivers and lakes and what have you, they fell back, and Russia has now taken control of this large area. And this situation will continue all the way over to Kurakove. Ukraine will not hold on for here. They will hold on for as long as they can, but they will steadily fall back. Same thing up here. It's only a matter of time before Russia has control of this area as well. For the same reasons, Ukraine will hold for as long as possible, try and kill as many Russians as they can before falling back to a new line, rinse and repeat, and then eventually Russia will have Ukrainsk, Hirnik, and these towns and villages, and then they will be out at Kurakove and the Kurakove Dam. It's inevitable. It all comes down to how long Ukraine can hold each defensive position, right? But Russia will advance. Ukraine will not hold on to this territory. In the end, all of this will belong to, or this will be Russian occupied territory. Interestingly, we can see here, these are Russian claims, not confirmed as of yet, but Russia is moving out from Novorodivka, moving along the creeks and valleys here along the villages, like I said, what is it now, 2-3 weeks ago, that this would happen, and it's happening. They're going to be pushing, they're going to do the same thing down here. They're going to try and take Selidove, and then they're going to move along the rivers, creeks, and valley to link up with all the forces up here, and in so doing, they will force any Ukrainians in between these prongs to fall back, right? But what they're doing here is you have a Ukrainian supply route leading into Pokrovsk. This way you have 5 in total, and this is the southern one. And as Russia pushes in along here, they will be able to cut this supply route 1 out of 5, and then they are in a position to prepare assaults on Pokrovsk. They're going to need this entire area here first, so they're not going to attack Pokrovsk in a day or two. They're just pushing out to secure the area where they can launch attacks from, but they still need all of this territory here to support the eventual attack. They're going to need all this territory to bring in artillery, mortars, to set up supply depots, field hospitals, command stations, and where forward bases of operations where the troops can rest and stuff like that when they rotate out of combat. If Russia rotates people out of combat, I don't know. But just because they're pushing this way doesn't mean they're gonna be sneaking into Pokrovsk anytime soon. This is just Russia trying to move through cover and avoiding the large open farmlands and get into a position to outflank this area and then eventually secure all of this territory here. And when that is done, when they have secure logistics from Donetsk to Selidove and they have all their artillery in place, that is when shit will go down in Myrnorod and Pokrovsk. And it's going to take time. Here you have Andrew Perpetua's map indicating Russia is pushing out from Novorodivka. He's not making any claims that Russia has pushed on as far as Russia would like. He's not even suggesting that they are up at Myrnorod as ISW shows. Russian claims. But still, you can see here, down here, just like with the ISW map, Russia is moving out on Andrew Perpetua's map. They're moving into Hirnik from the north. And they are, like I said, pushing out from Novorodivka along this valley here where you have some creeks, rivers, and lakes and what have you, and some smaller towns and villages. But this will take time. I made some videos 2 or 3 weeks ago when Russia had reached this part of the front line, and as you can see, a month later they haven't really pushed out westward in any great fashion. They are still struggling with securing this area, and this, like I said, they will secure it. They will continue pushing westward, then they will secure this. This is all of this territory here. I can do, let's see if I can, here we have a pen. So like I said, all of this area here, there we go, all of this, Russia will push out to control all of this before they make a push on Myrnorod and Pokrovsk. Goddamn headset keeps shutting down. Anyway, so yeah, so this is going to take time. It's going to take weeks and months. And I mean, they're not in a position to launch an assault on Myrnorod or Pokrovsk yet, right? So it's going to take time for them to secure all of this, months. And then they might even try and continue pushing out west and north to try and reach these 5 supply routes leading into Pokrovsk, right? To deny Ukraine logistics. And then, of course, they're going to enter the towns, the cities, and that in itself will take months for Russia to attack into the cities and try and conquer them. And I mean, while Russia is doing all of this out here, Ukraine is preparing both cities for defense, and they are mining all approach points. They are pre-sighting every inch surrounding the city, so as soon as Russia pushes in, artillery and missiles will come flying in with pinpoint accuracy along every approach vector. So this will take time. This is a battle that will continue well into 2025. Make no mistake about it. Not much else to add at the moment, at least. Russia is advancing around Pokrovsk. They will keep doing it. Just because they're not going in a straight line doesn't mean that Ukraine has ended the threat or, haha, Russia has failed in reaching Pokrovsk. No, Russia has pushed out to Mirnorod and they are now setting the groundwork to build up uh, their forces, gaining control of as much territory and space as possible to set up artillery and everything else uh, to set the stage for the eventual assault on Pokrovsk. So uh, that battle has only just begun. It's not even begun yet. They're just, setting the stage for the battle at the moment. So no, Russia is still uh, having success at Pokrovsk. That campaign is still moving along. Maybe not as fast as Russia would like, but it's still moving along in a way that Russia prefers, right? But Kursk, really interesting. Without these massive minefields along the Surovikin line, uh, we see how armor can be used. Ukraine pushed in, took Russia by surprise, moved along the main highways, thunder runs, did some classic blitzkrieg encirclements, took a lot of prisoners of war as a consequence, secured territory. Russia moved in troops ad hoc, did not want to panic. They did not want to empty sections of the front line elsewhere of troops, so they moved them in piecemeal, managed to contain the Ukrainians, and now they launched their own armored push, threatened to encircle a bunch of Ukrainians. They withdrew and surrendered territory as a consequence. Again, maneuver warfare. It's how it's done when you have tanks and armored transports. And when they are free to maneuver without big minefields messing everything up. And now, because of this, Ukraine is now pushing in elsewhere into Glushkovo, outflanking the Russians once again to the west, and we'll see how that develops. So that's it. I hope you found it interesting. I hope I'll see you in the next one. And as always, go på marsch, Ukraine, and give them hell.